welcome to the Inspiration of Painting. I'm glad you could join us in our session. What we're going to go through now, this particular session is strictly for those of you who are brand new painters who have never picked up a brush before, or perhaps have picked up a brush and got discouraged because you didn't know what to do with it. I find out as I travel around the country, and have for the last 20 years, holding seminars and art shows and teaching people, we have a tendency to want to do everything right now in a hurry. And you can't do that with art, especially if you want to really be good at it, or at least have a good understanding and enjoy it more. We've now got the impression that everything has to be done like push button. You know, we're living this fast-paced push button world, and you can't paint like that. Now, there are a lot of us who have started painting and we got discouraged because we didn't find the right instruction. Well, what I want to do in this little tape right now, this segment, just get you started, show you how to use your paints, your brushes, a little bit about mixing, and just some odds and ends to kind of help you feel comfortable with things before you ever think about a painting. Then when you dive into your first painting, you'll feel a little bit more encouraged, and it'll be a lot easier for you, okay? So just bear with me here, and let's go through this first segment here of just learning basics. Now, the first thing we want to talk about here, of course, is this is the new Grumbacher Max oil paints, and I'm very proud to be associated with Grumbacher. They, of course, are the leader in fine art materials, and they have developed some magnificent paint here that is a water-mixable oil paint that is going to absolutely revolutionize the art world. And so for those of you that are just now starting with it, please remember that it's a paint now you can use without all the toxic problems. You don't need thinners, you don't need cleaners, you don't need any kind of mediums to paint with, although you can still use some of the mediums, and I'm going to show you one medium we can use, but you don't have the odor of the terps and all the different things you have to use to paint with. It's a wonderful thing because, you know, a few years ago I became so allergic to oil I couldn't paint with it, so I switched to acrylic and still do work with acrylic a lot, as some of you know and that follow my program. But what I'm going to do today is share with you how we use these new Max oils. It's been a little bit of misunderstanding about what you do with it because it does work with water. Traditionally, oil and water doesn't mix. So the first thing we're going to do is show you how to lay out your palette. Now, what I use is the palette box, which is a system, get my lid here, that has been developed to hold your paints. Now, this is what I like about this is although you could just put your oil paints out on a regular palette and leave them out if you want to, I travel so much and I paint on location a lot. A lot of the students I work with do, and if you travel much or just want to keep them covered so somebody won't accidentally get in them, this is the palette saver. This is a beautiful, beautiful system. Now, all you do is you put your palette, which is this strip palette. Let me get this out and show it to you right quick, if we can. This is the palette that we use for the oils. This is the waxed strip palette. We'll call it strip palette. It's a pad of paper that you will buy and you put inside this box here. This is a 12 by 16 pad. You lay this in there, and then when you put your paints out on there, you're ready to go to work. Now when you're done, all you got to do is pop the lid on, and this makes it airtight. Now this specifically was designed for acrylic painters and a lot of your decorative painters, toll painters, and so forth. But I use it for the oils because it's clean, it's neat, and you cut down on the mess, and it does help preserve the paints a little bit longer. You just snap it on. You can hear it snap. It's really tight, airtight. Then when you're ready, you just peel it off to use it, and you're ready to go. So I wanted to first share with you what this is, because a lot of people ask me, what is this? Where did you get this thing? Well, if you've already bought the kit, you've got one. If not, you can find them in all your art stores. So please don't hesitate to ask about that or give us a call if you need to get one. Now, the next thing we're going to do is go over the paints we're going to use. Now, please remember that as a beginner, everything starts with a good foundation. You can't build a house, you can't do anything without a good foundation that's going to last any length of time. So first of all, I'm going to give you basic colors we're going to use, basic brushes, basic techniques, but that doesn't mean that's all you use. As we progress and go into more intermediate advanced tapes and paintings, you're going to get more colors that we're going to learn how to mix, new techniques, new brushes, but I'm just going to give you enough stuff to get you started today. We use, first of all, well, let's take a new tube here. It's a smaller tube. This is the titanium white. Now we're going to put the white up here in the left-hand corner, like so. We're using the cad yellow pale, or the cadmium yellow pale. Goes right here. We're also going to use the cadmium barium orange, which we're going to put right here. Actually, that's not it. I'm going to move it over. That's the red, and we want to use orange. So let's scoot it over with our knife. So if you did the same thing I did, and you probably didn't, you just need to scoot it. Here's the orange. This is the cadmium barium orange. You can see a major difference there. Then you have your cadmium red light, or maybe both. The Grumbacher red is one of my favorite reds because it's a real intense red. Sometimes I use both, so I'm going to put a little Grumbacher red out there. Also, we're going to need sap green. Now, sap green is a great, great color because it's really rich. Very rich green. Now, this tube's about empty, so I'm going to squeeze the rest of it out here, so we'll have plenty to work with. Okay. That's good. Scoop this over here. Now, in your acrylics, we usually use hooker's green, and I realize that some of you that are watching this and getting ready to start do use acrylics too, as I do, so you can learn from both of these techniques and different things. Now we use burnt sienna, which is the reddish brown. Then we go to burnt umber, which is the dark, more of a true brown. Then we go to the dioxazine purple, which is a beautiful purple. Then we have ultramarine blue. These are the basic colors. Now, as I mentioned to you before, there are some colors that we will add throughout our relationship. As long as you're following and watching and we're painting together, you'll be hearing a whole lot of new things that we're going to use. Now, put your colors out about 1.5 inches or so of each color in pretty much the order. Let me give you a little reason why. That's why we're doing this. It's not to paint here, but to learn why. I keep my lighter and my cadmium colors up here at the top. I take my green and put it between my reds, my reddish brown and my red and the orange, because those are complements to each other, the red and green. So by putting it together, you're always going to be getting into those. They're right there together where they belong. Your browns are together because you use those a lot, and all your dark colors always stick together because you use them together a lot. Then, of course, you have your white to tint with and change value. So, you know, you've got a nice arrangement. You've got plenty of room to mix. Another thing you're going to need is a palette knife. Now, in your kit that you bought, we only give you a couple of basic things, a basic knife and basic brushes, but you can add things as you feel like you can and can afford it and want to. I always use just a traditional mixing knife, just a regular palette knife for mixing. There are all types. The plastic ones work okay for mixing, and they make other inexpensive knives. I also have a little triangular shaped knife here that we use for painting sometimes, as well as for little dabs of mixing. They make all kinds of knives. We'll get into that sometime later. It's a lot of fun to work with palette knives to paint with. Okay, so you need a palette knife. You got your paints out here. Now let's quickly kind of touch base with some of our brushes. Now, traditionally we use two types of brushes when we paint, a bristle brush and a sable brush. Now your bristle brushes generally have the white bristle, and they come in two types. You have your flat brush like this. Then you have a round brush, which I don't use in the bristles. I use it in the sables. This is the 1271F series Grumbacher bristle brush. Now the F on the end of the number means flat, which means the longer bristle. If it has a B at the end of it, like it does on this one, this is another type of bristle brush. This is the 422B, that means the short bristle. But if this had a B, it may say 1271B. It would be a shorter bristle. I use a little bit of both. Okay, in the kit, I think you get the longer brush, so that it's just a little easier for it to use. So there's several sizes of those. In this particular case, you can go all the way up to a size 20. I have a 16 here. I think in your kit you have a number 10, a number 6, I think maybe a number 4. I'm not sure if that's there. But you also have a couple of sable brushes. These are the nice little sables, or they have some less expensive sables, which I think a couple of those are in your kit. But they're really good brushes to work with and to start with. But as you progress up the ladder, you're going to want to invest in better brushes, and you will, because you're going to see how much better they work for you. So you're going to need probably a number 4 sable brush, and then the most dangerous brush of all, and I'll find it here, is this little sable script liner brush. This is the one that we put all the little limbs and trees and weeds in the brush in. You sign your name with it and do all the fun things, okay? There are also several of these out on the market, and I use a couple of basic ones, and I'll share those with you as we paint in the paintings ahead. But anyway, these are the basic brushes, and again, these are only something to get you started. You don't have to use them just exclusively. You can add to your collection, in fact, wood. Another thing we need, of course, is our soft vine charcoal. As you can see, I use it to give a rough sketch of my subject or what it is I'm going to do, and that kind of helps me to kind of get started. And you can just take a little fixative if you want to, even a touch of hairspray, and spray on there to kind of hold it, and then when you paint it won't rub off. Over here I haven't sprayed this yet and it'll rub off, but that's also the beauty of this. If you're sketching and you don't like what you did, you just take a wet paper towel or your finger and it'll rub right off and you can just re-sketch it. So that's the neat thing about soft vine charcoal, is it's movable, okay? So you're not fixed with it like pencil or a hard charcoal. So we got to have that handy. Another thing that's a really neat gadget that I have found out recently is it's called the steady rest system. Now many of us, as we paint, find ourselves in this stressful life, a little nervous about something, or maybe we've had too much coffee, or whatever the problem is. Stress and all those things kind of sometimes give us the shakes once in a while, or maybe it's just our age, who knows. Well, this is called the steady rest system, and all we do with it is you clip it. Actually, you don't clip it, you screw it on here, because there's a lip on your canvas. You take the screw out here, or just turn this around like that. You'll see there's a lip on the back of your canvas of wood here. That's called the stretcher bar. You just put this there where the stretcher bar is and tighten up the screw like this. Now what's neat about this is it's adjustable, in that when you paint, you'll be able to make this thing work for you. Well, I think I missed the canvas there. There you go. You have to get it on there and then just screw this in so that it's there. Now, it's really easy to put on, believe it or not. Then you have what we call the maul stick. Now our maul stick, over the years you've seen artists, resting their hand. Well, this is what this is. This is a maul stick. It's to keep you steady when you get into a tight spot. This happens to be a jointed stick, so that if you're traveling, you can just, unscrew it in 2 or 3 sections. This has 3 sections, and I like to use this because it really is easy to haul around. Okay, it's got a little threads there. You just screw that in, screw this in, and you're ready to go. And then whenever you're painting, all you do is put your hand up here, say with a brush, and if you want to do some detail work, or if you're just a little flustered, this will help calm you down, and it's really a wonderful gadget. So it's something I would invest in. They're very inexpensive and something that you really, really ought to have, okay? So those are some of the basic tools that make the job easier. Now, the real exciting thing about what I'm getting ready to share with you is that these are the oils that don't knock you out because of all the stuff you have to use. You've got the odor-free problem here, okay? All we need is water. Isn't that unusual to clean an oil brush with? We've got some what we call alkyd painting medium, and I'm going to explain to you why we have this here. You don't have to have it, but I'm going to share with you because I've had numerous comments from students around the country about how to thin these new water-mixable oils if the water doesn't quite do the trick, and so forth and so on. Well, I'm going to share with you a little bit about this because it's a wonderful medium to work with. It is a little bit, has a little odor to it, but it's nothing like what you're used to working with. Then we have the Grumbacher brush soap, which is one of a kind. This is wonderful stuff. I'm going to share with you towards the end of this session how to clean your brush just using brush soap, no turpentines or any thinners like that. Then we also have a little thing here I get lots of questions about, and that is, what do I do about varnishing a painting? Well, acrylic paintings dry reasonably quick, and they cure within a few, say 24 hours or so, or sooner. You can varnish an acrylic painting the next day or even in the same day, but a good oil painting requires several weeks, sometimes several months of good drying time before you can varnish it. So like a painting like this where the paint is fairly thin, it'll be dry within, a week to 10 days to touch, but it needs several weeks to dry solidly all the way through, probably 3 to 6 months, depending on how much white's in the painting or how much yellow. Certain greens, like the sap green here, is a very, very it's a color that just doesn't dry, okay? That's all there is to it. But when you're ready to varnish, I use a called Daymar varnish, and I use the gloss medium or the gloss type. and I just spray an even coat, and it just read the instructions. It tells you what to do. It brings the luster back into your painting. Any dull spots that are there disappear. It's a wonderful thing if you're an oil painter. Okay, so this is the Grumbacher Daymar picture varnish, and they also have the brush-on varnish, which you can use. But if you're a beginner, and especially in the first couple, 3 years of your career, stick with the spray. You'll be much happier and glad that you did. Now, there are several little tricks to getting started and working with paints and paintings that I want you to have some knowledge about. First of all, mixing the oils has always been a problem with people, and I want to share with you a little bit how we solve some of the problem. Number one, whenever you're mixing with the new water mixable oils, you don't want to put too much water in with the paint because it weakens the pigment substantially, and sometimes you don't get the coverage you want. So let me share with you, if you're going to use water to mix with or to thin with, I'm going to show you the amounts to use and why we do what we do. Let's take white, for instance. So we just take the white, okay? Now I'm going to put just a few drops, see? I'm not going to put a whole lot of water in there, just a few drops. Mix it very, very good. You have to get the water and the oil mixed together very well if you're going to make it work like you want it to work. But see, this makes it nice and creamy. It's real smooth. But remember now that the water will eventually, in just a short time, evaporate out of this, and it reverts back to a stiffer paint. So you have to use this relatively quick. These are all things that I've tested for Grumbacher, and these are things that I have found for my own painting purposes that you have to be careful about. So don't put tons of water, but see, even now I can add a little more if I want. Just mix it in really well. Okay? Now, for those of you that have oils, and I've had many of you call me and say, oh, I've got my old oils, what do I do with them? I don't want to waste them. They cost a lot of money. Of course they cost a lot of money. Everything is expensive nowadays. So you can take a little bit of your traditional oil. Say the yellow is traditional oil. I can mix up to 30%. Now I think that's a little high. I would recommend only 20, but you can, they say, mix up to about 20 to 30% of your traditional oil with the water mixable oils. It'll still be water mixable. So yes, you can use your old oil with these, as long as it's mixed well. That's the secret, is mixing it well. So if you want a yellowish mixture there, be sure when you put your old oil in that you mix it real, real well, okay? Don't just leave it unmixed anywhere, because then it becomes a problem, and it messes up your brushes a little bit too. So please remember, when you mix, don't just put drops of water, big globs of water, just drops of water, mix it well, then you're ready to go. That thins it down a little bit. Now I will say this, and I've experienced this myself. Sometimes you want your paint to last longer, maybe several hours, or maybe you want it real creamy, and you're afraid that if you add too much water you're going to weaken it too much, and frankly I believe that's the case. So here's what I'm going to do. Even though I've got this already thinned down, what if I wanted it to be very thin to do a lot of creamy blending, smoothing work? Well, I'm not going to add enough water to create that effect, so what I'm going to do is take the Alkyd, this is ALKYD, Alkyd painting medium. It's a special medium that's been made to thin your oil paints, but it works great with the water mixable oils. Now let me share with you how this works. It's an ugly color, by the way, but that's all right. And when you look at it, it looks real thick, and when you shake it, it just shakes like water. It sounds like just plain water. But what you do here, now I want you to watch the consistency. See how it's creamy, but it's still very thick. You would have to have a lot of water in that to get it down to where you want it. Well, if you want a nice, creamy, thin mixture, you just take a little dab of this painting medium, and you mix this in. It's very slick. Now you just mix this in, and in just a minute or two here, this is so creamy. It's unbelievably creamy. It's like working with melted or very soft butter at this point, okay? There's a huge difference just in adding one little dab of that. Now you can add a little more if you want it a little cream, but see, I'm not putting much in there. Doesn't take much, and this will stretch and stretch and stretch and really blend. If you're into a lot of wet on wet techniques or wet on dry techniques or anything where you have to have a lot of creamy paint, this is the ticket for you, I guarantee you. It's just so creamy and smooth now. It's just fun to work with. You can mix any of your colors like that, okay? That's what's so exciting. So please take a moment and practice and play with this and all of your colors before we start the painting. Okay, not only does it help to thin and make it creamier and easy to paint with, but it also speeds the drying time of your oil. So that gets us back into the fast lane again. If you're in a hurry like most of us are, and I know I am because I need my paintings to dry so I can get it to an art show, because I make my living that way, and if I sell a painting, it's money in the bank. So it's the same principle. You have to work quickly, and so this helps speed the drying time up. All right, after you've learned how to mix using either the water or the medium, then I want you to think about something now that's a little bit more on the, you might say, the technical fine art side of actual painting. And that is understanding the difference between the intensity of a color or the value and the actual color or the contrast in the color. For instance, whenever you want to create something in the distance, and that's why I put these paintings up here, I wanted to share with you, and I won't go into a whole lot of pre-mixing things here because it'll take too much time, and we'll cover that pretty extensively in our paintings. But have you noticed here, let's just take a look at the finished painting. I'll point over here to the finished piece. Give you some examples of what I'm talking about. These two pieces here are, this is the finished one, and this is one of the steps involved. Notice these trees in the background, how very soft and very light they are, okay? Down here I've highlighted this one, but they're still very soft and very light. All of these trees have the same basic value. Now, excuse me, what makes these trees go back into the distance and give the painting a lot of depth is the lighter value. But notice something, the first value is this color. This next one I've changed the color, but the value also is just a little darker. I come forward with the green, it's a little stronger, and every time I come forward, I get a little darker with my values of color, thus creating instantaneous depth in a painting and creating a whole different atmosphere than most of you would have achieved. And the reason I'm bringing this out to those of you that are brand new is because I get thousands and thousands of letters a year, hundreds of calls, and every time I teach a seminar or a workshop, the biggest problem I see, well, there's two or three, but one of the biggest is how do I make my paintings have depth? How can I go way back in there, okay? Well, I've learned one thing. Values is the key, of course. The lighter your color in the background, the farther back you're going to be. The more color you have in the foreground, the more closer up it's going to be. So let's do a little test here and see how that works. Anytime you're dealing with distant colors or light colors, for whatever reason, you always start with a light color first. Don't start with the dark. For instance, those trees over there have a bluish purple tint. Don't start with the dark color first. Always start with the light first, which in this case is white. So you take a little white, see? This is why I wanted to do this. I want you to follow this tape and practice this before we ever start painting. Then take a little touch of blue, a little touch of purple. Now, let me tell you something about that. Most of you are heavy-handed. You dip in too heavy, you get too much paint, your colors get overpowered. I've been in so many seminars where someone ended up with a pile so big they could tube it and sell it and open their own art store, okay? You don't want that. Start in the order that you're supposed to do this in, and I guarantee you'll stay all right. So you have your white with a little touch. That means a touch, not a dip, not a dab, but a touch. See what that little touch does? It's turned that white already to an instant, distant color. Now, for those of you that are keeping records here or really taking notes, purple is your natural shadow color, and mixed with white, it creates a wonderful natural distant color, like a distant hill or mountain or trees or whatever it might be. Okay, so here we have a distant color. Now, when you test this up against your sky up here, you have to decide if it's still too dark or too light just by looking at your sky. And we're going to go over this as we start painting later. But right now, I look at that and I say, maybe it's too dark, so I add a little more white. You see, the more white you add, the more distant the color becomes, okay? So you add a touch more white to part of this. Now, if you want to change the color of it, and you say you don't like that much purple, you can add a touch of green. Maybe you want just take a little piece of it here and add a touch of green to it. Okay. Now see, that changes it from a purple to sort of a grayish purple or a grayish green. It's a beautiful color for distance, and that's pretty much what I've used in the background on these paintings is a grayish green. I didn't use just pure purple and white and blue. I put a little green in it, and I got those nice soft colors. Added a little bit more color as I came forward, and I got closer and closer to me. The closer you get to you, the less white you have, okay? Now that's an interesting concept, but it's something you need to know that most of you don't know or wouldn't know if someone didn't tell you. So now you know that when you want to go back in the distance, add a little white to your color, that changes the intensity or the value to a lighter value. Right, now let me share with you a couple other things about mixing color. Now we're going to get into all the other phases of it later. I just wanted to give you some real basic ideas of what it's all about. Okay? Now, let's take our canvas here. Set this aside for the moment. And we'll just do this. Now, I'm not going to go into any great details, but I just want to give you some basic information so that you can practice a little before you get started. Most of us know from our past experience or in childhood schooling that what the three primary colors are. Most of us know them as red, yellow, and blue. And out of the red, yellow, and blue, you can mix anything in the world, and you can. And you can go to any art store and buy these huge color wheels that have hundreds of colors on them, and to me they're very confusing. What I like to do with a new student is take you now from just basic samples of what you need to do to learn to paint a good landscape. So here's the way we're going to do this. If you'll just follow me here, we can have a lot of fun. Take like your, well, let's say your number 6 or number 10 bristle brush or the little sable brush. I'll just use my little my bristle brush here. Now we know that yellow, red, yellow, and blue. So let's start with red. Say right here, just make a little dab of red. Okay? There is your first primary color. Rinse your brush. This is what I love, rinsing my brush. And this is another little trick. Whenever you rinse your brush with the new water mixable oils, always wipe the excess first, then rinse it. Okay, that way you cut way down on the extreme sediment that gets in there and all the muck that it causes. Okay, now you've got your red. Now what's the next primary color? Of course, yellow. So you take a little bit of your cad yellow light or cadmium pale. Let's put that right here. Just a little dab. Okay, wipe your brush and rinse it out. Now let's go to our next primary color, which of course is blue, and in this case I'm using ultramarine blue. It's not a pure blue, but it's a good blue. It's a little dark, but let me tell you, remember, we're using this strictly for landscape painting, and that's what I want you to do. So here you can see this. Okay, now instead of us mixing our secondary colors, I've already got secondary colors out here that you can just use as they are, and it's not only it saves a little time, saves a little mixing, but they work better for landscape painting anyway. So if you mix yellow and red together, you get your secondary color, which is orange. You've got the cadmium barium orange, so go ahead and put the orange right here. Okay, there you have your orange. Wipe and clean. Now when you mix blue and red together, what do you normally get? Purple. Well, if you mix that blue and red together, you get more of a brownish color. Here, let's just use with this dioxazine purple, which is our landscape color for purples. It's a beautiful, deep, rich purple. See there? Okay, rinse your brush. And our final secondary color is, you know what it is? Green. Now you can mix blue and yellow, of course, and create green, or you take the sap green, and there's our green right there. Now I'm going to show you a really neat, exciting thing. Now we have all of our primary and secondary colors. That's all you really need to know as a landscape artist, except that, what do you do with your browns? And how do you make gray? Some of the other components to a good landscape. Well, first of all, your burnt sienna and your burnt umber are great browns for doing good solid things like tree trunks and rocks and buckets and barrels and things of that nature where you have a solid object. But a traditional brown that you want to use to mix in with your grasses and your tree leaves and things like that is mixed by adding all of these together. So here's what we're going to do. Watch down here on your palette. Let's take our palette knife. Now, by the way, now you should use paper towels or a rag, of course, to keep those handy because you're going to be doing a lot of this. I will take a little touch of yellow, a little touch of orange, a little touch of red, touch of the sap green, touch of purple, and a touch of blue. Mix it together. Let's see what we get. Lo and behold, we come up with brown. But this is our landscape brown. This is the brown that we use to mix all of our other colors with. So I want you to kind of do that. Put a little dab of it up here in the middle, like that. Isn't that a beautiful color? And compared to those two, your burnt umber in its traditional form, when you add white to it, gets real muddy. It's not clean and vibrant. This is a clean sort of brown. It creates a much better effect. Okay? So now you have your basic. Now I do have a couple of tapes and programs we've done where you have more advanced landscape techniques for blending and so forth. You can follow along on those and you'll get to them later. Right now, don't get yourself involved with anything but what I'm showing you, and I promise you within a few months you'll be doing very, very well with your painting. Now let me show you what I was talking about values. If you take a little white and you take it with your green, now just watch this, and I start right here. See how that softens it? Now you add a little more white, makes it even lighter. A little more white, makes it even lighter. See, it goes from dark to light. That's the light value that you would use for distant colors or distant things you're trying to highlight with. You can play with this as an experiment all the way around this little tiny color wheel and just have a lot of fun practicing, working, and mixing your paints. Say, for instance, use the blue. A little there. You come out, add a little more white. This is a great experiment. I did this when I was in college, but we did a huge wheel. It had I think 111 different colors. But see, you start up here in the main color, and you just gently blend it out by adding a little white, see? So it goes from dark to light. You do that all the way around, including the brown, and you're going to see now how you get these beautiful, beautiful, distant, soft colors that create that look of, oh, way off, sort of a misty, hazy look. It's wonderful, especially doing mountains and trees and waterfalls in the distance. It's wonderful. So learn how to create these distant colors so that when you get into your paintings, that'll be one problem that's already solved, okay? Well, that's important to remember. Now, the next thing to remember, not just about values and how to create distance, but also how to create gray. Now, gray is a color that a lot of people misunderstand. Now, we can cover it here quickly, but it'll be a little bit more easy to understand when we do a painting where we actually mix the gray on the canvas. But when you make gray, it's real simple. All you do is take, well, let's just do it right now with our knife here on the palette. Take a little white. Okay, now if it was going to be a dark gray, what I say early on? If you have a dark color, start with your dark colors. If you have a lighter color, start with the lighter color, or you get too much paint mixed up and it takes forever. If I want a light gray, I take white with a little bit of ultramarine blue and a touch of burnt sienna. I mix this together, and here I'm going to get what you call a basic gray. Now, I got a little too much sienna in there, so what in the world am I going to do? Well, most of us panic when we mix, and that's why I'm doing this. To get more of a true gray, add a touch more white and a little more blue, and that'll bring it back up to more of a traditional battleship gray. Now, out of this basic gray, you can see there now, that's almost a perfect pure gray. You used your white, your blue, and your burnt sienna. If your painting called for, say, a distant mountain, you can always add more white to lighten it, of course. If you want a little more blue in it, a little more purple, fine. Add a little red to it, a little green to it. Doesn't matter. That's your basic gray. So don't hesitate to mix up basic gray and have it handy anytime you're doing a landscape painting, because you need gray in a landscape painting. Okay? So that's how you get gray. I have that question asked a lot. Now, how do you make black? Well, most of us don't know anything about black. We just assume we go buy a tube of black. Well, when you want something very, very dark, you generally just take a little bit of your burnt sienna, your ultramarine blue, and your purple. You could use burnt umber depending on what you're trying to do, but it's best not to, okay? It's best to use your burnt sienna, ultramarine blue, and a little purple. And I can show you that very quickly. You take your blue, your sienna, and your purple, about equal amounts of each color. Mix that in very well. And you can tell now by looking at that it looks black in the pile, but it's got life. It's black with life, okay? The secret to a good painting is to give your painting life by understanding how to make things work, all right? Now, once you've learned how to do the basic color mixing, your battle is pretty much over to getting started in your painting. The rest of it's just following along when we get into the painting and understanding the basic components and different colors we use to make things happen. But what do we do when we're trying to create a wonderful painting with a, you might say, the complementary color system? What does that mean? You'll hear that a lot when you're taking lessons, whether it be from me or whoever, or reading books. What are the complements? Most of us think of complements as this, and it's true. The opposite colors on the color wheel are the complements to each other. For instance, if I have a painting like I have over here, let's just use this as an example, for instance. I have a lot of greens in this painting, correct? So I'm going to complement the painting by using some of its warmer complement, which is the reds and the tans and that form. Let me show you. The opposite of green is red, okay? So if I have a lot of green in a painting, I want to add some reds. So what forms of red did I use in this painting? We use the little orangish reddish flowers. We use peach colored highlights, which is a form of red. But look at the road. The road is a very warm reddish road. It's got warm browns, warm siennas. It's got a lot of the warm colors. That complements the painting. But also notice we used a form of red in the sky, and that complements the painting. So you should know in advance if you're going to have a painting that's going to have a lot of green. On the other hand, it's got a lot of red in the painting, you want to complement with green. If you have a lot of blues in your painting, complement with orange. If you have a lot of purples in your painting, complement and highlight with your yellows or forms of yellow. Now that doesn't mean you use a pure color. It could be any of a range of colors from here to here, because you could have a yellowish color, you could have an orangish color, but anything on that side of the color spectrum or the wheel is what you want to complement your painting with, okay? So that's a good bit of information that a lot of people find very, very interesting, as well as myself. Even today, I wonder how God created such a wonderful earth and all the complements are built right in, and if we just follow those basic rules, it's going to work for you. Mother Nature is no doubt your best teacher, so follow it. All right, now let's move into a couple of other areas that are very, very important for you as a beginning artist. And then, in just a few moments, if you have your beginning book and your beginning tape, you will become a painter. Now, the second thing here is using the script brush. Now, I've taught lots of lessons where I really didn't go into any preliminaries on this, and boy, people just went crazy not understanding how to use it. Now, like I said, there's a couple of different types. We have a little bit less expensive, a little bit more manageable one in your kit. This is the one I think in your kit, the little Sable Essence script brush here. Okay, you take water. Let's just use one of our dark colors here that we have, and you thin it down like this. Roll your brush. Just take water. See how I'm doing? Now this is one of the few times when you can actually thin the oil down with the water to use it, because you're going to create really basically a glaze here, more of a wash. But I wanted more than anything, you can read the book, and it's hard when you're writing a book and trying to explain to someone how this really works unless you show it. Okay, you got the mixture thin, then you roll it. See how I'm rolling? You roll it, and then you come out like this, forming a point. All right? You hold your brush back towards the end like this, and that's how you make this work. All right? Very important that you get a chance to practice this. Okay? See how that works? Now, the reason I'm showing you this is because you oil painters have a little bit more difficult time of it than the acrylic painters. Because you're going to be generally working on a wet surface, and you have to have everything ready to roll. You have to have the light touch. It's just easier to do it on if you understand it now instead of waiting until you get to your canvas. With a dry canvas, it's a snap. It's really much easier to learn it. But as an oil painter, you got to work a little harder at it because it may be wet underneath there. When you run through a wet surface, it usually weakens the pigment, but if you have a light touch, it'll skim right across the top and make a beautiful, thin, very well balanced tree limb. All right, so you need to practice that. This is also what we do to do weeds. Let me show you the weeds over here. You can see all the little weeds and things on both sides. We have the fence, the birds, all the twigs, or see over even here, all the limbs on the tree here. This is the skeleton for this tree. This is a very simple painting, so we don't have a whole lot of detail in it, but it's enough to get you started, and that's how important the script brush is. Without the script brush, you really can't finish your painting and give it the character that you want to have, unless you just keep it very impressionistic and very loose, and that's okay too if you want to do that. All right, now remember all the basic things here of getting set up and getting started. I just want you to feel comfortable and really all together about this. Now I'm going to share with you a little bit about cleaning your brushes and taking care of your brushes so that when you start finishing up, you'll know what to do with it. When you're finished with your oil painting, it's important for you, not now as an acrylic painter, you can just go to the sink and a little soap and water or the brush soap and clean them out. You can do the same thing now with your oil brushes, except it's a little bit different process in that it takes a little bit longer. The first thing, of course, always wipe out the excess paint first. Always, okay? Now, it's best to use fresh running water at your studio sink, but if you don't have that and I don't here, I'm just going to use the water and show you. Rinse it out good, okay? Take a couple of drops of water, roll this around on here. Really work it into the heel of the brush, like this. If need be, you can take the lid, which has this little grid in here, scrape it around. That gets some of the dirt out a little bit better. Then rinse it out. And I usually do it a couple of times. And then I do it like this, hit it again. Rinse it real good with fresh water. Rinse it out very good with fresh water. Dry it out as best you can and lay it down flat. Now, you probably walk into an artist studio like you would mine, and I've got hundreds of brushes all over the place, sticking in cans and jars and bottles all over the place. Well, that's traditionally how you store brushes, but while they're drying, it's best if you set the brush down flat, because if you have it up like this and you have a lot of water draining down in there, it has a tendency over a period of time to loosen the glue and your brush may begin to shed. So it's a very practical thing for you. Just lay it down and let it dry for an hour or two, and then you can set it in your can or your jar and store it away. Okay, now let me share with you a little bit about the painting knife, and the reason why I'm going to share this with you is because we will get into some painting techniques. You probably don't have one of these with you, but that's okay. You can get you one later on. But a painting knife is great because what I like about painting with a knife is when you put a color on, like say you want to do a rock or something, and you're struggling with your brush because it's turning to mud, every time you put a color on here, it's going to stay fresh and clean. Okay, now I'm mixing a little bit of white with a touch of orange to create a sunshine color. Say I want to just do this here. What I like about this is it creates a great texture. And you really can't overwork it too much. Okay? It creates little pockets of light and dark that you would have to spend a lot of time with your brush to get, and that's a neat little thing to do. So I would practice a little bit with a painting knife if you have one. Some of you will have, or you can even do the same thing with this knife, just a little bigger. It's very flexible. You can do that. You can use your plastic mixing knife if you want to. So it's a good idea to kind of start getting used to the knife work, because as we progress up the ladder into some more intermediate advanced paintings, you're going to need to learn how to use a knife, okay? Well, here's what we're going to do now. I'm going to be finishing up this little segment, and if you've got the first beginner tape and the first beginner book, you'll have a chance now to go in and take all these basic principles that we've learned, put them to use in the first book and the studies and learning how to paint. I hope you're going to have fun with it. This will be the first painting we're going to actually do, so you can see that it's got a lot of color and a lot of excitement. I think you're going to enjoy this way beyond what you ever thought was possible. I honestly have people come to me saying, this is the greatest therapy in my whole life, and it really is. Painting truly is a wonderful thing. Now, when you're done with your painting, done with your brushes, and you're all finished, I usually just snap on my lid, pop this thing on there, and you're ready to roll the next day. Just snap it all the way around, then just pop it off. It's a little difficult to get off sometimes, but once you get that thing off there, your paints are usually very fresh. Now, if they're not fresh, I want to say this. All you have to do, now sometimes they'll scum over on the surface. You can just kind of scum them off, take the fresh paint, get a fresh sheet of palette paper, put a new sheet there, tear that off and throw it away, and then just start fresh, okay? And that's all you have to do. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this segment of getting started and learning how to do a few basic things before we dive into our painting. God bless you. Stay inspired. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to call us or call the fine art number at Grumbacher, and they'll be more than happy to answer your questions. We'll see you real soon in a painting session, and you too will be inspired to be a painter. Hi, welcome to the Inspiration of Painting. I'm glad you could join me in our session. Now, we're going to go ahead with this basic beginning painting for those of you that have just started. You've already ran through the little basic how to set up and kind of some of the basic utensils we use and things that we need to do to get started. So we don't have to go through that. This will save us some time and a little frustration, and that's one of our biggest enemies is frustration. Now, if you look over here, we're going to concentrate on this painting. These are some of the stages. There's actually more than this, but I just condensed it for the purpose of this session. This is the finished painting down here on the end. Just a very simple landscape to give you some idea on how to use your brushes, how to get the greens and mix the leaves and the sky and the whole 9 yards. Very, very simple painting. I am using an 18 by 24 stretched canvas, and I recommend you do the same, although you could use a 16 by 20 or even a smaller canvas if you would like. And so let's get started. Let's use our our charcoal, our soft vine charcoal. And we're going to hook our steady rest up here in a minute after we get the sky on there, but it always gets in the way when we're doing that. So now we sketch in what you see up here. Just a simple basic sketch of the ground here. And all you have to do is just follow what I've done there. This is a very simple thing to do. Now remember what I told you before. If you have to, if you don't like your sketch or if you feel like you've made a mess of it, then all you got to do is take a little paper towel and a little water, just a damp paper towel, and it'll wipe right off. It's real simple. Okay, now the first thing we're going to do is mix up this pink color here and some blue, and then we'll blend those together and we'll have our sky colors ready to go. So if you'll take your mixing knife or your palette knife here, and I'm going to go ahead and just squirt out some fresh white. Now I've got the palette laid out just like we did in the beginning tape in the book, so you know a little bit about what to do there. Actually, I think I'll mix a little more there. Now if you'll take a little touch of your Grumbacher red, now remember what I said about that, don't want too much. Well, I'll get a little bit off, there we go. Now mix it in good. I'm going to mix in a few drops of water to get it nice and creamy. Now once again, remember we talked about using the alkyd painting medium, and if necessary we'll use that. Sometimes in my programs and things that I do, just as a practical matter, I need to speed things up. I have to use other things. But just plain water mixed in real well will get this pretty creamy and makes the job pretty easy. Now if you want yours to be a little more pink than this, that's fine, but isn't that a beautiful color? Just mix up a nice batch of this color. And I'm going to put a couple more drips of water in there. Get it nice and creamy. Remember to mix very well when you're doing this. Don't mess around. Now see, that gets it nice and loose so you can move it a little bit better. I'm going to test and see. I don't have to get it exactly like that, but that's probably close enough. I maybe add just a touch more red to it there. Because I want to get a nice rich pink, but not so pink that it overpowers us, and that's just about right. It's fun to mix. Very much fun. Okay. Okay, now in your kit, if you just bought the basic kit, you probably have a number 10 bristle brush. Now, for the sake of the painting, I'm going to use, in a little bit of time, I'm going to use a larger brush. You can do the same thing if you want to get a number 16 or a number 12. This is about the same size really as your number 10. You can do that. I'll tell you what, I'll just use that to make it a little bit more identifiable for you. Now, I'm going to dip my brush in the water and kind of work the water into it, okay? I'm going to take the pink, and I'm just going to do this. Now, if you have too much water on your brush, it'll become more of a wash. See, this is pretty thick, but it's creamy. It blends very nicely. Just use these big X's and blend right across the top of your trees, right down over the edges of them, into the painting. go about at least halfway or maybe a little more up with this color. Using these big X's. Now, like I said, if you want to use a bigger bristle brush, I prefer that. Most people are a little afraid of it at first, and some of these bigger brushes can get a little expensive, so you might want to consider something else here, like maybe just going ahead with your number 10 or number 12, and it takes a little bit more work, but it works out very well. Okay, now see, I'm just mixing across like this. A little more here. Okay, that's fine. Now this is a little bit of a textured canvas. It's great for landscape painting. Smoother canvases work good too, but they're more for detail work, you know, birds, animals, portraits, figure work, and so forth. Now after you've kind of blended that, rinse your brush, but always remember to wipe it first, because you want to keep the excess thick paint out of your brush as much as you can, so that your water will stay fairly clean. It won't stay clean, but it should stay. Now rinse this out. Get the excess paint out. Isn't that wonderful? See how it just came right out? All right, wipe it off again. Now let's scoop the pink color that we've got here sort of out of the way. Here in the corner. Because we may want to come back and use it for flowers later, or maybe a little touch up. You never know what you're going to get into when you're doing this. Okay, wipe the excess off. Now we're going to do the top part, and that's going to be done with just plain blue and white. Okay, so we take a little bit of white out here. Don't need too much. Again, taking a little bit, let's go ahead and put a few drops of water in to get it nice and creamy. Touch of blue. Mix it well. Mix the water in really good. Like I said, if you struggle with the water part and you want to move into the alkyd painting medium, you can do that. You don't have to, and I don't recommend it unless you just absolutely can't get it to work with the water. And the only reason you wouldn't is because you're just not mixing the right amount of water, the right amount of paint, or perhaps you're just not mixing it enough together. You're not getting a good strong mixture. I'm going to edit, make it just a little darker. I want a little stronger blue at the top. Here we go. Mixing that in real well. A couple more drops of water. See, normally you'd have to mix linseed oil or some kind of painting medium. All kinds of mediums on the market that you could use and for drying, thickening, and here you just use water. This is wonderful. Okay, see, it's nice and creamy now. You can even stick it on with your knife if you want to. I do that a lot. You don't have to do that, but I do that a lot when I'm sort of wanting to just get it on a little thicker, a little quicker. Then I take my same brush that I was using. Using big X's, we exit. Covering the canvas very well. Like this. Come down into here and work your way down into the painting. Now, I'm telling you right now, we're not trying to copy that just as you see it. You can't do that. It's impossible. Yours won't look like mine. Mine won't look like that. Nothing will look the same. But now, see, I'm working down into the painting. Blending using big X's, very light feathery strokes. Feathering is simply a matter of just skimming the surface like this. Okay, and when you skim the surface, you smooth it out a little bit. See how it's softening that, getting the roughness off of the paint? That's excellent. Okay, very good. Now you're making it happen. Okay, now that part's pretty simple and it's done basically, so you don't need to worry about it. But you do need to wipe your brush out, wet it, rinse it out, and lay it down. Okay, then we're ready to move on. Move it to my number 6 bristle brush now. And I'm going to take the same color that I used down here. I'm going to take a little dab of this blue. I'm going to add a touch of purple to it. See, this is the sky color that we just used. Adding some purple to it so we can get a distant color. But I'm going to add some more white to it so I can really soften it and send it way back into the distance. So take some white. Add a teeny weeny touch of green. Just a little touch. Remember what I told you in our opening tape, the little setup tape? This is how you get started. Add a little green. If you want to gray this slightly, this will add a nice touch to the background. Very easy color to work with and an easy color to live with. It's popular too in decorating. A couple little more drips of water to get it a little creamier, and then you're ready to roll. I like my paint to be, especially when I'm using a wet on wet technique like this, a little creamier. Now take your brush and sort of following the shape of your hills and mountains back there, or your trees I mean, just like this. Now see, this is a little bit purpler than that, which is fine. I don't have a problem with it if you don't. Now if you feel really odd about it and you want to add a little more blue to it or a little more green, you can do that. But I'm going to wait and do that on this section because it's closer to us. All I want to do is create a soft, distant color like we talked about. And this is how you do that. You just kind of scrub against the sky. The background. See, I'm creating some nice pockets of just good shapes. Go right up into that pink so that you can create a soft edge. Now I'm going to tell you something else too. Don't piddle, play, or putter. Remember the 3 Ps. If you've been following our TV program, you'll know that I talk about that a lot, not to be funny or anything, but it's the truth. Most of us spend a lot of time piddling. So see how I'm doing? I'm holding my brush back towards the middle. And if you pay real close attention to the instructions in your booklet, it shows you a lot about how to handle your brush, where to sit, all the things that you really just should get yourself acquainted with. See, I'm just scumbling, just making sure. Scumbling means a mixture, a whole arrangement of strokes, just going different directions like so, see? All right. Now we've got that basic layout there. Now we go over here, we add a touch more green to the mixture, just a little bit more of the sap green. You don't have to mix the whole thing, just take a small section of it. Now I got it almost too green, I think. So I'm going to take the rest of it, mix in, and although I want some green in there, I didn't want it to be a real strong, overpowering green. And let's test this one out. No, that's not bad. We can live with that. Now let's do the next layer of trees. They're a little closer to us, so yes, they have a little less white. See, we put the green in there. That not only changes the value, but it changes the color. See, they're a little darker. They stand up just a little bit in front of these. So we go ahead and dab in the distant trees. This. Okay, so just come right on across there a little bit. Let's see, already you can start seeing distance in this painting. Pretty exciting. Dab your brush like this. Scrub like this. It's coming down about this far. I had a line drawn right there. There'll be a meadow here, sort of a little mountain meadow. Your road, as you can tell in the finished one over there, it curves. You can see a little bit of it curving right back there, so you want to have that. So don't cover that up. You don't have to follow your sketch right to the exact T, but follow it fairly close. Okay. Now, see how nice that is and how soft that is? You've got your soft grayish purple on this side. You've got your green over here on this side. Now we're going to go in and start mixing in our distant meadow colors to create distance on the ground. And now you just take your knife and wipe that rascal out. Take a little bit of yellow. And what I'm going to do is just take plain yellow over here, add a teeny touch of blue to it to get sort of a lime green. Now this is a very lime green. Okay. Now yellow is its pure color, so if you want to lighten or soften it, you add white to it. Even though it may seem strange to you, that's the system you use. Put a little more blue in there to give it a little greenish tint. There we go, that's better. Touch of water to make it kind of creamy. Mix that really well. Okay. Now, take the same brush, rinse out the excess. Got to hear the clink on the can. That's important. Gives you a little bit of an inspiration. Now, what you do here is you take right back here. You can see how I've got this back here. You take the yellowish green and you just kind of dab it on like this. See how I'm doing this? Putting it on kind of thick. Then you add a little touch of white to it. See, like that? See how all of a sudden that changed? It's the same color, it's a different value. That's what I want to get you to understand. This is your value change. This gives you a lot of distance back here, a lot of distance, okay? Just take the green that you mixed, add a little white to it. That changes the value so that you have a real nice, light, sunshiny section back there. Now, as you go along, you'll begin adding some of your own ideas, your own touches to this, but this is the way you should start. Follow this pretty closely. But if you have a hankering to do something else or feel like you want to add something to it, don't hesitate. You know, do some experimenting. As you come across here, just use the color pretty much by itself, except you can add a little touch more yellow and white if you want to as you go, not just to change the value, but also to give it a little different color change so that it's not just one color. You don't want to just be all greenish. It can have a little bit of yellowish to it. This is sort of a late summer painting. Now, see over here, we're going to raise this up a little bit so we create a little bit of a hill on this side of things. Like so. Okay, and just keep coming. Now, when you get to the bottom of this little clump of stuff you're doing here, down in this section right through here, add a little touch more of the the sap green and maybe a little bit of the burnt sienna. Just a little bit. See, I'm just kind of dabbing those together on my brush, mixing it in there, because you want this to be just slightly darker right at the base here. See how I'm doing that? There you go. There you go. Now we're cooking. Right along there. Perfect. That gives you a nice springy green. Okay, and you get a little shadow on the edge of the road as well. Now, at this point, we're going to go ahead and block in the road. This is very, very important. And we're going to use this same pink mixture we have here, although you could start fresh, and I didn't explain this to you in the book that you could use this, but if you've got it, you need to use it. And in this case, I happen to have it here, so there's no sense in me mixing up a bunch of stuff if I've already got it. I don't like to waste, okay? So you take this pink mixture, if you have some, and what I want you to do is add some yellow to it, like this. Just take your palette knife and add some yellow, maybe a touch of orange. Let's mix that and see. That should give it a nice, more of a golden color, which is great for the center of the road. See, it's coming almost pretty close to the same color. There's a lot of different ways and different orders to things. So this will be your light color that you mixed up here, and this is what you use to block in the center of the road with. Okay, there you go. Now, in fact, I'm going to take just I'll just use my brush here, rinse, wipe it out. Clean this thing out a little bit. Now, quickly and thickly, just like this. I want you to just scrub this stuff on to where it's just real simple to do this. Just scrub it on quickly. Now remember the 3 P's, don't piddle, play, or putter. If you piddle, play, and putter with this, if I could see you, you'd have problems. I won't let you piddle, play, or putter. See, I'm just really fill this up nicely. It gives us a nice glow. It also complements the green. Yeah, just scumble it on here, scrub it on, whatever you want to call it. This will teach you to be loose too. Most of us are very stiff when we first learn to paint. We're very controlled. We think everything has to be followed to a very precise science, and that's not true. Okay, see how we're doing here? Okay, there's a little bit left on my palette here, just enough to finish out, so I'll just put it on with my knife and I'll smooth it out here in just a minute. Just enough there. If you didn't mix enough, it's easy to remix this color. In fact, I think I will mix a little bit because we're going to probably need it to touch up and highlight. So just take your white, a little touch of orange and yellow, and you'll have it. Or a little touch of the red and yellow, whichever works best for you. And of course, a little drop of water or two kind of adds to it. A little touch of yellow, a little touch of orange. Mix this real well. And we'll have some extra here because you might want to use this for highlighting your rocks and your tree, and it's a good color to have. I call it sunshine. It's a great sunshine color. Okay. Now, take this same brush here and just put a little dab of this right along back here. Now this will be the area where the road turns. So you just have them dabbing this on like this. Just dab it on. It's on pretty thick, so don't let that bother you. Just put it on kind of thick. Like that. Okay. That'll be where the road turns, and you'll see how important that is to the painting here in a minute. Okay. Now, you've got the road blocked in with this. Now let's take the edges of the road. Now you can see what I've done here. I've taken sienna, purple, and umber, and I've blocked in the darker values around the road. So that's our next step, okay? Using the same brush. You don't even have to clean it out because you want that color in there. You take, in fact, you know, if you'll take your sienna and your umber, I think I'll take some sienna right now. Whoops, I got it in the green. I want to have it close by over here. In fact, I want to have all these colors just sort of around this pile. You can always add more later. Okay, I'm going to work out of the pile like this. See, I'm working out of the edge of the pile. Take a little sienna, a little purple. We'll start with those two. I guess that's umber, yeah. And start on the edge like this. You want to use more sienna and purple than you do the umber. The umber's okay, but it's a little strong. And like I said, it can turn to mud real easy. Now I'm doing this comma strokes like so. This is really not a hard thing to do. It sure does scare people sometimes though. So, you know, work like that. And as you come out of the edge, off of the edge, your stroke is parallel. See, like this with the top and bottom of your canvas. So you come in and you blend like this. Working out into the road. Do the same thing over here. Pick up a little more purple and sienna. Don't be afraid. Now see how much darker it is there? That's because I'm not mixing too much of the road color in. Okay, now come on down and across, come out into the road like this. A little more sienna, touch of purple, finish out your corner. Okay, see how that works? Now come right on out into the painting, see, into the road, using your brush back and forth, sort of big long strokes like this. See, I'm blending out. Now there'll be a big shadow here, but right now what I want you to do is just take a little bit of sienna just to sort of form the edge, just like this. Now you can pick up some of your sunshine color too to help so it's not so dark. But there's an edge right there, see, and you want to kind of form it. See, I'm kind of smudging the edge there. It's not the shadowed side of the road. This is the shadowed side, but this is the lit side. But it's still going to have a little bit of discoloration just because of the different ground formation. You got all kinds of things happening in this painting. Okay. Now, here's where the fun begins, and this is where some of us as beginners, we have a little bit of a tendency to worry that we're doing the wrong thing. Well, remember, painting, it's a risk sometimes, but you have to be not afraid to dive in and do certain things. So from about right here down, all the way down, we're going to have a nice purplish shadow. Okay, it's very important to this painting that you get this shadow in here. You're going to use your dioxazine purple, a little burnt sienna, this. Right on across. Okay. See how we're doing here? Come right on across using long strokes, creating a nice, rich shadow. This is really beautiful. Okay, just come right on across. Don't be afraid of it. Now this creates the shadow of these, oh, whatever it might be, another tree over there, or who knows. And it's pretty dark actually right up over here too. Darken this a little bit. Now, like I said, we're following this as close as we can, but I'm so used to painting myself, sort of ad-libbing, and as I go, adding things, taking things away, that I don't want to get too carried away with it being too perfect. Okay. I may change it a little. You don't have to. You can paint it as close as you want to the finished thing there if it makes you feel a little more comfortable, and that's okay. Just make it just a little darker here. Don't be afraid to get this pretty dark. Also, notice now, we've got a lot of green in this painting. Remember we talked about the complements. I put a little more red in the road, so that's the next thing I'm going to do is take a little touch of my red, and right out here like this, I'm just going to put a little dab and just sort of blend it in. I don't want to get it real strong. You can pick up a little pure orange, maybe a little touch of yellow, anything to give it a little bit more of a rich color, not such a washed out pale look, although you want that in there. See how that gives it a nice rich, more of a dirt look? Where I'm from in Oklahoma, we have a lot of red dirt. There you go. Just do it like that, and notice how quick and loose and free all this is happening. Now the next thing to do is take your number 10 bristle brush, and what you're going to do now is we're going to block in all of the grasses, the dark grasses here and the grasses on this side of the road. Now you're going to see how easily this falls into place, okay? Now starting back here on this side, if you'll just take plain the sap green with your big brush, you can add a little touch of yellow to it if you want. maybe a little orange. See, I double and triple load the brush. And then I'm going to come up here and I'm just going to start like this. Start putting it on. Again, if you want to, you can hold your finger on the canvas if it's bouncing too much. This thing always makes a lot of noise, so I'm going to move it for the moment. Okay, come right on across here. Now, that's a little bit dark, so all you have to do is take some, a little bit of yellow and orange maybe. See how I'm doing this? That softens the color. You don't want it to be real dark here. You want it to be darker than your background, but not so dark that it's overpowering. Okay, see how I'm doing this? Now you can take your brush and flip it to create the suggestion of little bushes and weeds and things, if you want. Now I'm just adding yellow and orange. See? Just like so. I'm going to come right over here and create a nice little pocket of grass right there. Flip it up against that yellow so it shows up, creating some nice little bushy effects. Okay. Now, of course, we're going to do that over here, so sometimes I'm going to clean my brush out on this side. Okay, come right down into here. Now, this is when you may want to switch to some of your smaller brushes, like your little number 6 sable brush or bristle brush, if need be. Down into here. Because you want to pull this grass right on over like this, so that you can definitely see the road go around, okay? Now, as you get into this area right here, we know that this big tree is going to go here, so there's going to be a shadow right here. Okay, so this is going to stay dark right in this area, so you're going to go ahead with the sap green and a little bit of the orange and yellow, and you want to have a nice sort of dark shadow area right there. Go right to the edge of the road. Don't worry about it. Just go to the edge. Then in selected areas, you just take pure yellow. You can use a little white if you want to, but you flip up like this, the pure yellow. Now what this does is create the sunshine in the painting. Okay, where the sun's coming through, right down to the edge of the road there, covering up the can. Don't overblend it now or it'll get muddy on you. But I would use pure yellow at this point. See, I'm flipping up. The paint's on nice and thick. You're creating nice texture like brush and grass. It's really great. So just keep coming on down like this, putting on pure yellow. Leaving a little dark patch right there. We'll have to put the shadow on the road here as well. Okay. That's exciting. Just keep coming forward as you get down in this corner. Then you begin darkening a little by adding a touch more of the sap green with a little touch of the orange. See how we darken that a little bit? And already you're creating a beautiful sunlit little hill right there that's just outstanding. It's just wonderful. And it's simple if you don't panic. Okay, you see how we're doing that? Now, get that section covered. You immediately come over here and wipe out your brush in this section, but you want to start with the pure yellow up here in the top part. You know, with a little bit of the mud in your brush, see it creates sort of a greenish color. Flip this up like this. Don't worry about it. Over here you got a bush that goes in there, so that's not a big deal. I'll come right up here like this against the road. Now what this does is it helps not only add interest to the painting, but it helps make the road look like it's turning. Right down to the edge, flip the grass up right in front of the road like that. Now keep adding a little touch of the green and the orange with the yellow. Now the yellow is the predominant color here. Okay, so don't let that get away from you. That is the dominant color. Very, very important that you don't let that bother you. Of course, we do have a little section right up here where that bush is going to go. You don't have to paint that in if you don't want to. See how I'm just flipping up the brush like this? This will really get you feeling good about the work, about how your brushes work. It's very important that you have a feel for all of this. Okay, you see how I'm doing that? A little bit of light here, a little bit of dark, play back and forth. Now I'm out of my yellow, so I'm going to put a little more in out here. Take a little yellow, flip it in. You don't want it to be real thin, so put the paint on kind of thick. It creates the texture of grass. Now see, already this painting's starting to come alive. And it's simple. Now I'm going to advise you, if I could, to keep the painting simple. That's all I want you to do as a beginner. Don't try to do a whole lot of fancy footwork here or brush work. Don't try to add a lot of things that you're not sure about. That comes in as you do some of the other painting, and then when you move into some of the intermediate things or work on some things of your own, then it can change. But right now, keep it simple, keep it clean, keep it effective. Because the simpler the painting, really the more effective it is. Any great, good teacher in any art school you'll go to will tell you that the simpler your painting, the better it will be. Now I'm adding a little of the darker green and the orange here to kind of darken my corner because it's going to be in shadow here, so we need to do that. I'm pulling the grasses up here. This is a lot of fun. This is how I like to create bushes and things. And see, once you get the basic of this painting, it's a snap to finish it. It goes really quickly, very easily. Then you've got the confidence to go into your next one. See, I put little pockets of light and dark. Keep coming forward here like this. You might throw a little plain yellow in here like this now and then. But just be sure that whatever you do, you've got good texture and everything fits together. Okay. Now we're doing just right. You've got it all blocked in. It's really simple now to move in with some of the intermediate and the more finished details once you get it this far. Now the first thing we're going to do is go ahead back to our number 10 bristle brush and take a little bit of purple and a touch of burnt sienna. Let's get the shadow from the road in here, or on the road from the tree, I mean. Just like this. Just take it in and kind of smudge it across like this. Of course, you want to kind of blend in, so blend it a little bit, but you want to definitely know that that's sort of a shadow from something. Remember, purple is your natural shadow color, so you want to get the purple in there. There you go. Maybe a little bit wider along the edge here. It's good. And I usually go back and finish up any edges. I just kind of dab into my grass, make sure the canvas is covered, and that helps a lot to finish out the edge. Same thing over here, you can just kind of dab into this. You can pick up some of your sunshine color like this. See, I'm doing this here and just kind of dab into on the edge. That creates a little bit of a sunshine effect, and like rocks and grass and stuff was up in there. Really is pretty. Okay. Now, after you've kind of got your shadow in there, you got your edges kind of touched up a little bit, then we go over here and let's put our little bush in right here. You're going to do that with your, say your number 6 bristle brush. And all you're going to do is take your knife and mix a little bit of sap green. You can mix a little orange or a little red with it. A touch of white to soften it, or add a little bit of this sunshine color if you want. You see, you create sort of a warm olive green. You can also use your number 4 sable brush if you'd like. Some of you feel more comfortable with that brush, and if you do, that's fine. But I'm going to start with my number 6 bristle, and I'm going to just turn it on the chisel corner. Now, we talked about that in the book. But you start like this, using the corner, just kind of smudging. First of all, just getting the basic location here. Okay, just like that. Blending it into the grass just gently. Then you take your other brush that you had going there, and you just kind of flip the grass up around it, so settle it down there. Okay, like so. See, that settles that little batch of whatever that is down. Then you continue on now with the process of creating trees, bushes, like so. See, I'm just barely touching. Now I'm going to show you, you can use this, your little sable brush too. It works real well for this just as well. And you can just get this bush up here nice and tall and fill it out very well, and you can have a lot of fun. See, but reload your brush often because the paint's a little wet, of course, and it moves around and lightens the color. And you want this to be a fairly rich color here, so just come through like this, getting some nice values, and you're in business. Okay, now this is something you can work on and spend a little time on, adding it, make it as big as you want, change the color some if you'd like. We'll add a couple of limbs up to it here in a minute. Now, while you have your number 6 bristle brush in your hand, I want you to take, you can wipe it out if you'd like to, and rinse it out. And we'll put the ruts in the road so that we can kind of establish a few things here. Wipe your brush, rinse it. Now, all you do is take burnt sienna with a little bit of umber, maybe a touch of purple. You can use all 3 if you want. Hold your brush back like this. Turn it sideways to start using the edge of the brush like this very gently. And as you come forward, apply heavy pressure, see? And kind of squiggle it. It makes it look just like ruts in the road. Okay, just like that. Repeat that step on the other side to create the other rut. And of course, the difference though is on this side over here, it gets a little bit wider. So you want them to be very close together up there. But back here, you see, then you can kind of do a little things like this. So you can just kind of scoop it out to make it look more like it's been there a while. Maybe the dirt and sand's drifted up around it. I like to do stuff like this. It's fun to play with the oil paint because it moves around and creates so many neat effects. Okay, pretty simple. All right, you see how you just kind of texture that? Makes them look set down in there a little bit. Already the painting's coming alive. This is really getting exciting. Now, next thing is while you have this paint on your brush, we're going to go ahead and block in the main trunk of the tree using just plain burnt umber, maybe a little purple. And just sort of get the basic location of it right here. It's no big deal, because you're going to have it really covered with leaves, and you don't want to make too much tree here, just mostly the main trunk. Well, then we'll put a few of the little limbs on, and then we'll begin leafing it. Okay, work it in like this to the grass, and that's how it stays within the shadow that way, see? Okay. Then we take our script brush now, and of course we take a little bit of our dark mixture. You can use a little umber and purple here if you'd like. Add some water to it. Get a sort of a thinner mixture now, not real thin. Like I said in our little beginning session, don't thin this down for anything except this, or it becomes a glaze, and it's best to glaze instead of with the water using a medium like the alkyd or something. All right, now you get that nice and thin. You get your script brush, put a little water in it, roll your brush around. Now load it very good so that you got plenty of paint, just like you would in a fountain pen. It's got a lot of paint in it. And just get a few main limbs here. Okay, now by now you've had a chance to practice with this little thing, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Okay, why it's so important that you practice and have some understanding, a little grounding, basics of this before you ever paint, because it can sure be frustrating. All right, so you just be very thin, very loose, very delicate, very free. Have a good time with it. We're going to add lots of leaves and things, and then more limbs. So, okay, that's basically all you need. You can add a few more if you feel like it, but while you have this in your hand, go ahead on the other side now, and let's get a few little limbs coming up through this thing, if you want. Be sure you let some of them hang out now. That gives it a little bit more interest. Now, while you have this on your brush, it's important to go ahead and block in your fence back there, just like this. Now, if you want to scratch it first, and I mentioned this to you, you can take a sharp instrument and scrape the location of it, because then you can take it off if you have to. But this fence just sort of disappears back in right across the edge there. If you need to do that, as sort of a guideline, please don't hesitate. Now see, I'm just hitting them a couple times, fatten them up a little bit. They'll stay light and soft. You don't want them too dark, because with the wet background there, see, they sort of set back. The paint kind of blends in. Got another one here. Make them kind of crooked and old and all that stuff. Okay, and you can just kind of dab right across there if you want to. Now, after you kind of get that in there, the next step is to go ahead, and I think we'll leaf the tree, and then we'll come back and we can add the rocks, or in fact, I'll tell you, while we have the umber on our rock, let's go ahead and block in where the rocks go, because that's something it's easy to do. Take your number 6 bristle brush, excuse me. Take a little bit of umber, a little purple, maybe a touch of white to slightly gray it or soften it, or if you got some of the sky blue, you can add to it. You can just sort of mix a little bit of that in there so it's not quite so dark, but it's pretty dark. And then just kind of quickly come along the edge here like this and just blob in the basic shape. See how I'm doing this? Now after you get the basic rocks blocked in, let that set for just a second, and for those of you that are a little nervous or having a little problem controlling yourself, it could be by now that you're about to that stage, we can put our steady rest on, and remember all you do is clip it on the side of your canvas here, and you usually have to wait till you get, especially if you're doing an oil painting, till you get to about this stage of the painting, because you don't really need it until you start doing detail work anyways. Oh, I'm going to miss it again. There we go. I think that did it. Well, let's pull the screw out a little bit further. It has to fit right on the stretcher bar. See across the back there, and that's like that. In this case, your holder here covers the full length of this 18 inches, so that makes it good because you can get in a lot of different positions if you have to. Okay, now let's go over here to our palette, and let's take our palette knife, and we're going to mix up our leaf color for our tree here, and that's going to be sap green. Just take a big dab of sap green, and you can use burnt sienna. You can throw a little bit of red in with it, touch of orange, any of the warmer complementary colors to warm it up, and just mix that real well. You don't need to mix water with this because you want this to go on fairly thick. Okay. Then, if you'll remember, in our book, we talk about in some areas where the paint's real thick, if you need to scrape it off, you can. So what I'm going to do here, just in a few selected areas, I'm going to scrape off the paint where it's a little bit thicker. Just like this. And any place where you're struggling, where you have to add things if the paint's on real thick and it's not working out well for you, so you can scrape off the excess. That gives you a little more of a dry surface to work from. Okay. Then you take your number 6 bristle brush, the one we were using for the rocks, and you just start the process of leafing by using the chisel edge of the brush, holding your brush back, being very loose and free, and allowing the paint now to move right on into the background. That's what softens it, see? You can put the paint on in big blobs first and then move it out like this, creating individual leaves, and let the paint, let the leaves kind of hang down. Don't be afraid to come way down here. This adds a lot of character to the painting. Okay? And this is basically what you'll do for the rest of this tree. Just work through this. You can do this for just about any tree that you're working on or bush. If you want littler, smaller leaves, just barely touch it like this. But for the most part here, just go ahead and put these on a little thicker, a little heavier. We want a nice full tree this time that goes far beyond what your actual sketch. See, your sketch that we put on there a while ago with the trunk of the tree was just simply to kind of help you have a guideline, but see, it's actually going to be much bigger than that because this tree is the key to this painting. It's the center of interest, focal point, and it's what makes it click. So, see how nice and soft the edges are of these leaves, and in the center it's a little darker, which is just the natural course of events. That's the way it goes. A little thicker over here as you come out. Little light touches to create nice soft edges. Okay, now we're going to take just another second here to do this. Then we're going to add a couple more limbs in there, a little highlighting on the fence, the bark, the tree, a few little rocks and pebbles, and then you'll have your first very basic painting done, something you can be very proud of, you can really get excited about. Now, you don't want to go out and sell their first one. Just keep it. Just save it for the future, because it's really nice for the first few that you do to look back and say, wow, that's what I did. This is where I've been. This is where I'm come from. It's really great to see the progress that you've made. Now, over here, I want you to come right on and branch this small section of tree here. Come right on out. Don't be afraid of it. And like I said, if you're following along in the booklet, the book will give you some indication of a little bit more details you can put in there. Okay, this shows you the actual stroke, gives you a feel for it, and kind of what happens. The rest of it is going to be up to you. Right on down into the grassy area here. Now you can keep studying your subject if you want. You can kind of make up your own shape if you'd like. That's okay too. There's no problem with that. You know, you should be very open-minded when you paint. Don't be afraid to try different things. Okay, we'll come right on down here like this. Now, if you want to go back in and add some brighter highlights or some darker values, you can do that. In this particular painting, I'm not going to concentrate on that because our whole thing is lit this is sort of a silhouette against that background, and if you get too much light on it, it will take away from the contrast. So anyway, the secret here is to have nice dark leaves that are soft against that light background, and that's what we've achieved here. And it really adds a nice touch to the painting. Don't be afraid to come right on down in front of the fence here. Also remember, I'm going from small study pictures there for instructional purpose to a larger one here, and you will be doing the same thing. So it's a little different. A little more room to work with here. Okay. Now, after you've kind of gotten quite a few leaves on here, and you may want to come back and add more, take your script brush just like you did earlier, and add a little water to your dark brown mixture over here. Roll it around, get a nice thin inky mixture, and come on up into the tree now, adding some connecting limbs. See, right up through the tree. This is really good to do. Ties the tree together, gives you a little bit of confidence that you actually did make a tree, and it really adds character. See, come right on up like this. Don't be afraid of it. And we're making progress. Right on down into here. Through here. Now you want to have a few limbs that are just by themselves. You know, not every limb is going to be leafed. Some have died, some of the limbs have fallen off, or for whatever reason, it adds a little character to the painting. Just have a few limbs hanging out here and there. Pretty soon you get really good at this, and doing tree limbs and weeds and grasses and things will really be a joy to you. Right now it's probably kind of painful. Usually is when you're first learning. Now when you have this paint in your brush, if you got the courage, this is when, of course, you need this a lot. When you might want to go ahead and try to block in your birds flying up here. I like to do that right about now. Just put 2 or 3 flying. You just apply pressure right in the middle, and you make sort of a body. Don't just make big check marks. These are actual birds flying here. We don't want X's flying around in the sky. Okay, now you've got some nice birds there. Got a couple of fences there that need to be rejuvenated, and maybe add a couple back here. As you can see the rest of the painting now. And now you can see your eye going right on across. It won't carry you off because you have a pretty good eye stopper here, so you're safe there. Now take your number 6 bristle brush, wipe it out real good, get all the excess paint out, rinse it good, and we're going to go back to your sunshine color, the pinkish color that you used on the road. And then very quickly, with a thick, clean stroke, just like so, highlight the very edge of these rocks. See how quick this is? Wipe your brush, reload, quick stroke like that, reload, and just continually reload, getting fresh paint so that the highlight will be nice and bright and cheerful and clean. Come right on the edge using the chisel edge of the brush. See, I'm just making little dabs of paint. Don't paint over and over and over on this. Just concentrate on doing it gradually like this. And you get beautiful rocks right along. This will be your first attempt to do rocks. It may want to be your last, but almost all of us struggle with rocks. And in the future, when you do some of the other paintings, you're going to see that they do definitely have their, you might say they almost have a mind of their own. Kind of tie them together. And that's basically all there is to it. It's really simple if you don't overwork it, okay? Now take your brush and do the same thing over here on the tree, except this time you just barely touch the edge of it like this to create sunshine, as well as sort of to simulate the texture of bark. Just kind of touch it. See, that creates a nice texture. You can also use your palette knife to highlight with to create bark. You don't have to do that right now. I just don't want to discourage you by getting you to do more than you have to. You've done the first few studies now, the little individual items, objects now. This is your first painting. So keep it simple. Don't do any more than you feel confident and comfortable you can do. That's what we're going to do here, is not overwork it. Now with your script brush, with your number 10 bristle brush, rinse it out. And I want you to take a little bit of this green, this light green that you used back here, you should have some of that left here. If not, you can mix up a little bit. Take a little white and let's get a little highlight for our background trees. And then we'll have some weeds and a few flowers, and then you'll have your first painting. But take a little bit of white and add it to this light green mixture that you had mixed up there. And very gently, just dab it like this. See? Now this creates a little bit of a highlight to the tree, gives it a little form, and kind of helps tie the painting together. At least, now don't worry about the very background ones, those are not important. Just these. Straight on. Now we use this technique all the time in all types of painting, in our acrylic painting classes and workshops, and in our oil painting. This is a great technique for just highlighting, giving a little bit of character to your background trees. And that's really all there is to it. You can also use it to dab in highlights like this. If you want to do this for little flowers and things with different colors, you can do that. You can use it for trees. You can do a lot of different things with it. So practice this dabbing technique whenever you can. Now take your script brush, once again, a little bit of water, and get a thin mixture, and let's try to put some wire on. Now, wire is difficult because you have to have a very thin, very light touch. So just barely skim the surface like this. Doesn't have to connect completely because it's an eye thing. Your eye will finish the job. Just get the basic location of the wire that it's moving, and it'll finish out on its own. Very light touch. That's what this steady rest system is for, so that you won't overdo. Okay. Got a little heavy there. You can always go back and swish a little grass up underneath it. I can hear there's a few little pieces of wire, and over here. Adds a nice touch to the painting. Now for the weeds. Now what you're going to do is you're doing just what you're doing now, except you take your dark green mixture that you use for your tree, a little water, get a nice thin inky mixture, and we're going to let it roll. Okay, get it mixed real well, get a nice thin mixture. Get your motor started here, going in a circular motion like this, and let's get the weeds up like this. See, I've got some nice dark contrasting weeds against my lighter background. That's what makes the painting come alive, okay, is these light contrasting colors and the values. We'll put some lighter ones down here, put the darker ones up here. So just come through, put quite a few. Don't be afraid. Fear will get you nowhere. Okay. Do a few over here on the right-hand side. Maybe coming back in the other direction perhaps, or just coming up like this. Now don't get carried away, because I don't want you to ruin your painting, because most of you in the beginning, you either completely underweed or you totally overweed and create all kinds of problems for yourself. See, I'm just kind of creating some nice dark weeds here and there, just to create contrast and a little interest in the painting. Then you can take plain yellow, and I just insert it like this, where it's real thick, and I'll just come up like this. And the reason for this is because when you have plain yellow on here, it leaves little peaks of paint that create texture. See, I'm just kind of smudging and dabbing little textures. That's great fun to do that. I like the way this effect is because it creates nice, real loose, sort of a wind-blown effect. Now you have some light-colored weeds in here. Especially down in here, you want a few that show up against the dark. You don't get too many, but just a few. Maybe some up there. And just go through the painting in selected areas, looking where you can put weeds. Finish out with that, putting as many as you feel like you can handle. Then you can start adding some of the little touches like we talked about in the beginning, little flowers, anything that will help tie the painting together. For instance, we have this, you can take pure red, if you want to have red because it's the complement here, and you just dab like this. Just dab in some nice little flowers here and there. You're going to have them out in here. You can use white, you can use pink, you can use purple, you can use blue. Almost any color flower is fine here. Orange, yellow. Like I may come down here and put a few orange ones around. Just they're little dabs. You don't have to create, quote, a flower. You create the suggestion of flowers. You create the suggestion of anything in painting. I may insert the brush right into white here, and I can create the effect that there's a whole bunch of little daisies or whatever you're doing. You can create sunflowers. You can create the suggestion of lots of things just by grouping them properly, like you would see in nature. Okay, let's put some nice, bright orange ones up against this dark shadow here. That looks really good. Maybe some more orange or red down here in the corner to kind of, yeah, maybe there's a little bush here that's got some little flower, some leaves. Maybe this is the first signs of fall. Maybe the very early turning things are starting to happen now, because this looks kind of like a late summer painting. And basically that's it. As I said, as a beginner, you don't want to spend too much time adding a whole lot of things to the painting. It's more important that you understand the strokes, the technique, what your brushes do, how it feels, to cut down on frustration. But now you might want to, if you, like here, I don't have my grass quite covered up against the fence or the road, so you just kind of smudge that in and kind of tie it together. You can go through and do little refining techniques. You can also, if you want to put a little highlight on your edge of your leaves up here, you can take that light yellow green we had and just dab a little here and there to kind of finish out your tree. That's optional. This is not even something that you have to do. Like I said before, the contrast of this big tree against this open sky in itself is enough to satisfy my curiosity, as well as it having a good artistic flow. The final thing you might want to do, of course, is put a little thin highlight with your script brush and the sunshine right on the edge of your fence posts. That would be good, just enough to make them look finished. And now you've had a chance to blend, you've had a chance to paint some things that have a little bit of form, you've had a chance to create depth. And what I'd like for you to do is go ahead in your own home studio, maybe paint this painting again a time or two. Use the step-by-step thing that we've given to you there, and maybe arrange the colors, change the tree on the other side of the road. Be very creative in doing these things, and you're going to have a lot of fun, and you'll grow immensely. You'll have a wonderful time learning to paint if you just don't get stuck in a rut of painting the same thing over and over and over, and by copying too much, okay? Well, I certainly hope you've enjoyed our session as a beginner, and I hope you can stay with us, and we'll move on up the ladder to some of our intermediate and advanced books and tapes, because I'd like to see you continue to have a wonderful time and be inspired like I am. So God bless you. Stay inspired. We'll see you again real soon.